How you doing, Kevin?
Good.
Good, doing all right?
Yeah.
Good. So we've done a few of these. We've done, 2 weeks ago we did one of these, and Lauren was on stage here with you, and you guys shared a bit of your story, the history, and a little bit of the vision that you had, and then you met with the 55 plus as well, the group. That was good for you, I think, encouraging time. And then last week, you spent some time just talking about your thoughts on discipleship and life groups and, what's the process of moving people along intentionally in their walk with the Lord. That was so helpful, I think, for us to hear. And tonight's, it's kind of a free-for-all, open.
Yeah.
It's okay? You okay with that?
That's great.
No scripts, really. What I would just, once again, like we've said each evening, is if these are questions specifically geared to Pastor Kevin and the role that the search team and the board feels we're presenting him for, that lead role here at SCC. And so if there are questions that you have about process or how things were done, or questions to the board or to the search team, we're going to be here again. They're wearing their lanyards. You'll be able to see them. Just tap them on the shoulder. We want to engage conversation with you. So just know that we'll be around afterwards as well. But this is about you.
Yeah.
Well, it's about Jesus.
Yeah.
But you're here.
Totally. Yeah.
So I'm gonna start with a leading question just to sort of warm things up, because we're sitting in this building. Can somebody tell me when this building was built? 1979. Some of you weren't even born back then.
I wasn't.
You weren't.
I was not.
There you go. And this is a wonderful place. God has done a lot of good things in this brick and mortar.
Yeah.
But we do see signs of aging in areas that probably need some attention. And if the Lord calls you to be the lead pastor here at SCC, what are your sort of thoughts? And this is now sort of under your purview. What are your thoughts about this facility and facility just in general, even? Like, how important is facility in the life of the church?
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit last week when we talked about like the trellis and the vine. So talking about structures and ministry. We want to be about preaching the gospel. We were just praying about reaching our community with the gospel. But we also have structures in place to help with that. One of those structures is this physical structure of the building. So I think being a good steward of that and maximizing it to whatever we need for classroom space or bathrooms or whatever. So I think there's been lots of projects kind of on the horizon maybe in my time here that maybe have been put on the back burner, and maybe we have some opportunities to do some of those things moving forward. We did just do some work on the HVAC system. I'm looking at Mark Holowachuk over there because he was helpful in doing some of that work. But some of those types of things that you just notice that we should probably get on top of. So there wouldn't be anything like top of mind that I'm like, we need to do this right now. But being a good steward and using it to the best of our abilities and getting people that know how to do that involved with that. So even just facilities-wise, thinking about who could help in just taking care of those things. So stuff like that.
Yeah, just being a good steward, like you said, good stewardship of what God's given us. And, that's good.
Yeah, what makes sense and doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Are you a handyman?
Not really.
No.
But
not that that's what the lead pastor should be. I'm just asking. Just more curious than anything. But you know how to delegate.
I get by.
Who said boo? What? You can be. Listen, you can be a handyman as a lead pastor, but you don't need to be. It's not one of the qualifications.
Watch YouTube videos.
There you go. Yeah.
Change the alternator on my
There you go.
truck.
Yeah, you are a handyman.
You can do things. Yeah.
Okay, that's my question. Somebody else. We've got a mic runner. Jen, do you have a mic? She's going to make sure that you get a mic in your face.
Yeah, so again, if some of these questions have been asked, this is my first time being able to make it. Glad
it's okay.
I can.
Yeah.
Paint a picture. What does SCC look like in our community in 5 years under your leadership? What are we doing? What does the church look like? How are we involved in the community?
Yeah.
Paint a picture.
Okay. 5-year plan of SCC. I think this ties into some of the previous conversations, like you said, but it's a great question. I think would we be a church where individuals are being equipped. So that people are, as we were just praying for sharing the gospel with our neighbors, that people would say, hey, who are you sharing the gospel with? And there would be somebody that you're actively doing that with, and maybe actively in a discipleship relationship. So being mentored by somebody else, mentoring someone else. I think being involved in the community, there's lots of options to say what that exactly looks like. I don't have like here's the exact thing that we do, but again, kind of like stewarding the building, how are we stewarding the mission? So 5 years from now, would we be growing? Would people be knowing Jesus? Would there be conversion growth? I think there's one thing to grow in people that are moving here, and that's great. A lot of us who's been like transplanted to Salmon Arm, right? Not all of us have grown up here. So I think that's great that people move here and they find a place to land, but would we be growing by people coming to Christ because of people in our church, or they've come here, or we've done something in the community? We were just praying moments ago about past initiatives that we've done, like services within the community. I'm not opposed to that. I think that'd be great if we do some of those types of things to invite people in or meet people where they're at. Not always asking people to come here, but what are some things that we could do to get into the community? I think that's great. And I think you're good at some of that stuff too. So it'd be good to ask you about that. Yeah.
You started off by saying sort of equipping people. So, and you talked about equipping people, particularly. I don't want to be let me just move this.
Yeah.
Wreck your cord. I'm so sorry. Sorry, sound guys who love cords. Equipping people to share their faith, even something as simple as like share their faith.
Totally.
It's like, I don't even know where I'd start. So there's that equipping piece.
Yeah.
But then even just the process of discipleship. You kind of talked about mentoring, but that would, it's kind of what I've heard also, just this desire for intentional discipleship in people's lives.
Yeah, and I think that's what gets me excited is I think programs are helpful. And again, we talked about this before, but programs are helpful, and it's good to have some of those things as catalysts. But I think the best thing is when people are just sharing the gospel, like with your neighbors. Like, I think that's awesome. I think if you know how to do that, like you just said, like if we're a church that actually says, here's how you do it, here's some tangible ways of doing this, and we're walking with you and praying with you through that. We talked. Sandy was asking questions about life groups and just that relational piece last week. That people would know who you're sharing the gospel with. Like, Steve, you know who I'm sharing the gospel with, and you're like, how's it going? And praying for me actively on that, I think, is helpful. So just getting more people in the game, I think, is big. Yeah.
Yeah, talking about testimony times, I remember so many testimony times I've been at where people's like, I just shared the gospel with Jack at work this weekend. Will you pray for him? And then, the next week you get to bed. It's like, I had a chance to share with him again, and he's a step closer. That's the kind of stuff that encourages others to say, I probably need to get in the game a little bit as well.
Yeah, and praying, having that those are fresh conversations. Yeah, when you're talking about praying with or praying for people in your life, that it's like, no, these are people I'm actively talking to about Jesus.
Not somebody that I shared with 10 years ago. It was an amazing thing 10 years ago. It's like, but in the last 10 years, I haven't shared it all. Or even growth stuff, right? Okay, that's good. Yeah. Spencer, you want a follow-up question, or is that? You don't need to.
Sure.
Yeah, I think I think everybody growing is good. Just maybe it'd be neat to hear some more kind of more tangible.
Okay.
This be a vision thing that I feel like we need to champion in the church. But I know it's a little bit on the spot.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I think that is it. Like the personal discipleship piece. I think I'm pretty old school I'm not about flash or like fancy. Like, I think we got to be creative and innovative in ways that we can be. But I think when it comes down to like just preaching the gospel, just making disciples. Why don't we make disciples? I think oftentimes because we don't want to. It's hard. I remember being at a conference in Edmonton years ago. Francis Chan walked onto the stage and he was like, I'd rather, pet a cat than make a disciple, is what he said. That's how often our mentality is. So I think we can make things more complicated than they are. So I think, are we equipping? Are we teaching? Are we walking with people? And training the church to do that, so it's not all just ministry staff doing that. So that would be a big part of my vision is that discipleship piece. How are we equipping people in the church to do it.
Intentionally, Kev, with youth and kids too. Like,
Yeah.
can kids learn how to share their faith,
Exactly,
or
yeah.
grow in their walk with the Lord, or
Totally. Yeah. It's across the board. Yeah. I'm going to preach on that on Sunday, actually.
Oh, there you go.
So, there you go.
come back. Don't miss it. 9 o'clock and 10:30.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody else.
If you have ideas, though, Spencer, like, I'm serious. Like, that's what I want too. I want people being involved in bringing ideas and saying, "Hey, could we do this?" And that's great.
It's great.
Yeah.
Super.
Hey, Kevin. Just kind of following up on where that conversation is going, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on kind of a collaborative effort between other evangelical Bible-believing churches within Salmon Arm, the Shuswap,
Yeah.
the Okanagan. Are you into that kind of thing, or is SCC kind of a lone ranger? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely open to that. As far as we can, as far as that makes sense, and as far as we can do stuff together. Even talking about our other campuses that have been rolled off into autonomous churches, like doing stuff with Sycamoose, if it makes sense, like helping them with Sycamouse or some of their initiatives, or them helping us with something. I think those are valuable. Broadview's down the street. There are brothers and sisters in Christ. How can we partner with them on things that would make sense in the community? I think, I'm definitely open to that. Yeah.
It's good. Yeah. I mean, I hope we're not lone rangers, though. Sometimes it can appear that way. Like, we just kind of have our own lane and we kind of stay in it, and sometimes to our own detriment, with the realization that there are other believers that we could being together in certain, like you said, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
Just like there is strength in numbers at times, and so sometimes there is. That's good.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hi, Wendy.
I have always wondered, is there a ministerial in Salmon Arm where evangelical ministers get together?
There is.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that is correct.
I didn't know that.
There you go. There is.
Is it just evangelical ministers, or just a broad? Because I actually don't know the answer to this.
I couldn't.
Ministerial.
I'm not sure.
No.
I'm not sure.
Everybody?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a pastor on staff that used to attend those, and it wasn't me before. But
Youth guy wasn't allowed there, or what?
he's allowed there, but we didn't want to send everybody to the same place.
Sure.
So
Yeah, there is value for sure in that. Yeah, go ahead, Wendy.
Okay. So I have another question, because I'm just wondering, what do you see happening with the kids? Because we don't have a children's pastor anymore. So what are your thoughts about that, and where's that going to go? Because we don't want to lose our children, right?
Not at all.
They're important to us. They're the legacy, and so what are you thinking there?
Yeah. Well, I think that's an obvious place where we're going to have to think through what's our plan next. To tell you what that plan is today would be, I can't tell you that. But we need somebody. We have people leading it right now, and we got to think through, what does that look like in the fall? Is it the same people, or do we need to bring in others to help out? Same with youth. We had this question last week. Same with the youth question. I can't do that role. I can't do all of it. So do we have people in the church that are already helping in those ways that can carry things? Do we need to hire somebody? Those are the questions I definitely have to answer soon. Yeah.
Have you thought through, Kevin, like a church of 550 people-ish, 600?
Yeah.
What's your staff congregation ratio? Like, where should you be at as a staff?
Yeah.
Like, sort of ballparking a little bit?
Yeah, ballpark. I definitely think we could use a few more staff members, for sure. Yeah. Again, you don't want to overstaff, but you definitely want to have enough people that it is covered. But to give you a number, I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
There's some vacancies that need to be filled, Wendy. Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I hope this is appropriate, but I wondered about the counseling, because sometimes I've wondered who to go to, and frankly, I must say, Pastor Ben was great, and he spearheaded a lot because his whole agenda was counseling.
Yeah.
But really, I don't know who to ask if I'm talking to somebody who needs help, other than paying how much it costs here. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
So I don't know how like, it's very needy. It's very, very needy, and I think all the pastors are feeling overwhelmed with it, because I've talked to Pastor Bob about other things that are there specifically. So I just wondered, is there any direction, or where should we go today?
Yeah, no, I think that's still on the table to work through, and to say that I have the answers to that, I certainly don't, because that's not my specialty, that area. Pastoral counseling for sure, but as far as the counseling center, those are decisions we have to think through, and how do we best steward, again, that stewardship question, how do we steward that? How do we maximize it? How do we use it going forward? So.
But from pastoral counseling, what maybe just press in, what did counseling look like for you as a youth pastor? What's that going to look like potentially in the future moving forward if the Lord does call you to lead that lead role? Yeah. That's going to look different, obviously, I would think. Totally. Have you given that some thought in terms of pastoral counseling? Yeah, pastoral counseling, like, I think that's kind of just your entry point. Somebody comes and just says, can I talk with you about such and such? And then you sit down and hash that out. And I think where the counseling center is great is when it's equipped in different ways. So when I'm kind of tapped out and I need some resources on, hey, this would be better, we can pass that off or whatever. So I think that's how I've seen it. Yeah, no, that's good. And I know that the board, just maybe to answer that too, I know that this is on the board's radar as well, without speaking for the board specifically, but I know that the board has talked about this too, like what is the future trajectory for redemption counseling? But I heard your question more than just redemption counseling, it was also pastoral counseling, which is critical. So you're taking calls. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, exactly. You can phone him. I need to talk to somebody. Phone Pastor Kevin. Yeah. He'll be on vacation for the next 6 months. No, I'm just kidding. He won't be. Couple weeks would be nice. Okay, good. Yeah.
Kevin, one of the things that I'm really concerned about any leader, regarding any leader, that you have a good group of people that you really are confiding with. Yeah. In other words, accountability group, if you like. Yeah. Women do this really well, but I think as guys we have a hard time really having a close group of people that we confide in, that we pray for, that we share our deepest concerns or our struggles with. Sure. Do you have a plan for that? Is that going to be the board? Is that going to be the other pastors? Do you have a group of people that you can really grow together and be honest and open with in terms of your struggles yourself? Totally. Yeah. No, I have, and I've had mentoring relationships for a long time. So some of those mentors are not here, but are outside, and still call regularly and ask questions and pray for me regularly. I just had an email yesterday from one of my mentors just saying, what's going on down there? Any excitement was the subject line. So just checking in to see how he could pray. I had a friend phone me just this morning that's been trying to get a hold of me and asking me how he could pray for me. Prayed for me on the phone this morning, asking me some good questions. So, and 3 older brothers that I talk to about stuff. So I've got a handful kind of outside the church, and then within the church, it's the elders. Around the elders table. That's where a lot of that takes place. Yeah.
That's a good question. Thanks.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
I was wondering, it isn't obvious to me that the lead pastor has more impact than the youth pastor, so I'm wondering how you went about making that decision to go about the switch.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that goes back to when I was in Fort St. John. So I started in Fort St. John in 2010, and I was in youth ministry till 2019 there. And my last couple of years there, I was just kind of discerning what was. Well, I was happy with youth, and but at the same time, I was kind of just wondering if there's opportunities elsewhere, or what the Lord's leading. Especially not the last couple of years, especially the last maybe half a year while I was up north. I was just. I've shared this before, but I had a bit of an unsettledness within my spirit, and I just wasn't sure what that was about. And then I received a call to come here. Would you be interested in being a youth pastor here at SCC? And my initial thought was probably not. Like, our church was in probably the healthiest place it had been during my time there. You don't gain stuff overnight. I think 9 years there was awesome, and I thought, why not do 9 more or 20 more or whatever, whether it was in youth role or something else. But again, there was just that wrestling with that. Even our church in Fort St. John went through some transition, and during that time, the question was posed to me if I wanted to be the lead pastor during that time. Now, I don't think I was ready for it at that point, but it did cause me to ask that question and to kind of think maybe down the road that might be something I'd be open to. So I began kind of praying about that even back then. The elders during that point, because of some of the nature of what we'd gone through, were kind to me and saying, we love you and we actually could see you as a lead pastor. We just don't want to put that on you right now. And that was out of love as they kind of discern things. And I thought that was really awesome. And I didn't feel like rejected. I just felt like, oh, thank you. And I just carried on with youth ministry. And that was like my answer to those prayers. So yeah, coming to 2019, a little unsettled, talking with Pastor Ben about the role here. I got excited because he was talking about, making sure the youth were a part of the church, and he was excited about discipleship as well, and we had some of those same conversations. So that's when I kind of felt stirred to come here. And even here, I love that part of the DNA of SCC was planting churches. Like, I love that was a part of what happens here. And I thought, man, that's something I can learn about during my time here. And who knows down the road. I wasn't thinking that, again, Ben was like, can you give me 2 years to be a youth pastor here? And I was like, yeah, I hope I can give you more than 2 years. So I didn't anticipate being here 5 years on, but I feel like the door has opened to that, and I was just open to discern that and to think about it. So when the opportunity arose here, just started praying about it and thinking about it and asking other people and people asking me and affirming that in my life. And I don't leave youth ministry easily because I've always thought I can be a lead pastor someday. I've never seen it as a stepping stone. I've never seen it as like this is like a promotion. Some people see it that way. Even when I was coming here, still in youth ministry, I had a person say to me like, "Are you okay with that? Like, what are you going to do in Salmon Arm?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to be a youth pastor." "You're okay being a youth pastor?" And I was like, yeah, like that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been giving my life to and felt called to as a teenage boy, really. So I've never really seen it as kind of a step up or anything like that. But I just feel like the Lord's maybe nudged in that direction, and this is part of the discerning of that. Like, do I want to step into that? But I feel like there's a place for me in that, and if the Lord is putting me in that spot, then that's where I should be. So.
Well, how would you say the way God's wired you and gifted you lends itself then to being a lead pastor?
Yeah.
Like, what would you say would be your top 2 or 3 gifts, and how does that play itself out then in a potential role as lead pastor?
Yeah, I think there's similarities. I think with youth ministry, you're leading. No, it's not a separate congregation, but you're leading leaders. You're leading a group of students. You're trying to get them into discipleship relationships, and you're trying to disciple leaders to disciple students, and that students would disciple other students. So there's that multiplication piece, that discipleship piece. As far as my giftings, I think like teaching and shepherding would be kind of those bigger ones. Administration is not my strongest suit, but again, I've done okay with it. I've gotten by with it. So yeah, I think those would be the main ones. So yeah, there's a similarity. I think seen other youth guys step into youth roles and done okay. So,
and maybe just one more follow-up question to something you just said, and kind of tags in a little bit maybe. When you talked to Ben, he had said, I want the youth to be part of the church.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, I mean, obviously there's a need for youth ministry, there's a need for kids ministry.
Yeah.
We've had men's ministry, we've had women's ministry, we've had life groups and all these various things. And what can happen in a church often is they become silos. They're kind of on their own and separate from everything else. So what's your philosophy of very specific age-focused ministry, yet is that okay, or do you want there to be some crossover, just ministry philosophically?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on siloing these things? Or
I'm definitely not a fan of the silo. I think that was actually the exact words that Ben and I were using in some of those conversations. Ben said, we have a lot of students coming, which reflected some impact in the community, which is great. Having community kids and having kids that don't know Jesus coming here is awesome. But he just said, we want to see these students actually connect to the life of the church. And that's what I get excited about. And I think that's true of any ministry. Those are great places. Again, like we talked about last week, it's good to have some of those age-specific or gender-specific spaces. But Sunday morning, you were just saying earlier, like when the church gathers, that's the main deal. So that's why we encourage students, like, hey, Tuesday, it's great that you're here, but make sure you're here on Sunday. And we would encourage students to come on Sundays, and some couldn't. Tuesday maybe was the only time that they could, and so that, we got to make the most of that time with them. But we wanted to make sure that students valued the life of the church and valued the intergenerational aspect. I think it's great to have some time with kids your own age, but if that's all you're hearing from or rubbing shoulders with, you're probably in trouble. I know our seniors pray for the youth ministry, and it's awesome if a student actually knows that and can see seniors, or they know their name or they're praying for them, those types of things. Children's ministry, going to grade 4 on a Sunday and then expecting the rest of the kids above that age to come to the service, I think is great. And that's something I would want to continue with. And then the fact that they're in the service for most of the service as well, I think is helpful. So I value that. I don't want to see those things separate. Also, I don't want to see staff members competing. I think that can be an unhealthy piece in some ministries where you've got to fight for airtime or fight for resources or whatever, and I'm not interested in that. I think we're all we're trying to do the same thing, just with different people. So how can we help each other out? And I think we're pretty good at that. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, there he is.
Kev. Oh, there it is.
Hey.
I'm going to wear the Sunnybrook Bible Camp hat for now.
Sure.
But how would you see that partnership being a useful resource, or how could we partner together in the future?
How could we partner with Sunbury? I think, how many of our youth kids are out there right now doing salting? There's a good amount. I think what I love about Sunnybrook is how they beat the drum, or you guys beat the drum of saying, like, we're here to support the local church. So we were just talking about competition a minute ago, like, you're not in competition with us. You're actually trying to feed into the life of the church throughout the rest of the year through your summer programs and those things. So I value that. I think that's awesome. The fact that you want pastors to come out to chapels and so that kids can see, that's so-and-so from SCC, so I can go there in September, or I can go there next week when camp's over, and I know that face, or having pastors connect that way, or just pastors in the region. So I think that's awesome. The fact that our in youth ministry specifically, the fact that our student leaders get to do some leading in the summer in a different context, and that helps us going into the fall with youth ministry, and then hopefully it helps you guys in the summer coming into the next summer with students going back out there. So I think that's a great training ground, a great place that students can be equipped outside of that, and kids, and even where church members can serve and help as well. So yeah, I value that partnership. I think it's great. Yeah. I don't know if I answered that question, but.
What maybe new initiatives?
New initiatives. I couldn't tell you right now. I don't know. It's a hard question to answer, but something good to think about. I'll think about it. Let me think about it. Is that okay?
A check for $2 million, would that be okay, Kyle?
Yeah.
Like if you
Exactly.
To cut that
Exactly.
check today, or for the project, or
Exactly.
I don't know if you can do that. I don't know that.
I don't think so.
Of your own.
I don't think. I hope not.
Okay. Yeah.
There you
Has
go.
an echo in here.
There you go.
Yeah, good. Oh man, it's going to be a gooder.
Yeah. No, just something that's kind of dear to my heart is how can we get people involved in the life of the church? You just mentioned the life of the church.
Yeah.
It's something I find difficult is people come on Sunday and then they're gone. And it's hard with 550 people here on a Sunday morning to kind of get to all of them. Yeah, so what would be your vision in getting people involved in the life of the church?
Yeah, I think, not to sound like or what's the word? Broken record. There we go. I think having some space to equip people, I think, is huge. I still think that's. Does that guarantee that it's going to happen? Probably not. Like you can do some awesome equipping stuff and give people tools, but we got to be praying. And God's got to do something. This verse that I've been holding on to for all the time, but lately in John chapter 15, I have it as kind of the background on my phone right now. John 15 verse 5. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit, for apart from me you can do nothing. And that's just a reminder, like, I can't do any of this. That's really it. But I think having some space to equip people, to give them some tracks, I think what you found, even in just talking to you in other conversations, people serving, having a place to serve is really what gets people plugged in. But you're also saying that's a challenge to get people to serve. So, but I think that's always going to be a challenge. I think it's just going to be where we constantly have to keep bringing more people in and getting people involved that way. But I think once you serve with someone, I think that's where you kind of get plugged in. You can attend some stuff together, and that's great, and you can build some relationships. But I think when you're serving alongside somebody, I think that's a huge part of growing. And again, not to make it about youth ministry, but that's what we see with youth ministry as well. When students are actually kind of using some gifts and having an opportunity to serve somewhere, I think is great. So that would be my answer for even just people in general.
That's good. So equipping is a critical piece of that. Like
I think so.
Have opportunities for groups to come in to learn,
yeah,
to hear, to understand.
Yeah. Yeah, when
function, the dynamics of the church, and
catch the vision and make it their own and own it and walk it out. I think that's big. Yeah.
Maybe just to kind of follow up on Sandy, like as a church of 550, like I think equipping is good when we have new people coming and as we're preaching the gospel, hopefully hearts are being transformed and we're discipling and we're bringing that up. But with the church of 500 people, we have people that are ready, I think, right now to serve and to be used. And there's like the traditional children's ministry, Sunday school, but how are we as a church going to find new ways to allow people to use their gifts and their passions beyond that? Because that's kind of been the traditional drum is serve here, serve there, and if not, maybe you can make coffee. But if we have people with other giftings and passions and desires, how do we make space for them to live out the mission that God calls them to in our church? How are we going to do that moving forward?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this in previous weeks, having more spaces, having some more ministry gatherings, so having some more areas where people can teach. I had a question a couple weeks ago, are you going to do all this teaching? No, I can't do all this teaching. So having other teaching spaces, so we've talked about having a midweek or a Sunday night teaching space where you can hear testimonies, where people can teach on different topics. Some of that type of thing, I think, invites people in. I think also you don't have to just equip people for ministries within the church. How are we equipping the football coaches and the hockey coaches in the community to share the gospel in those places? I think that's a big thing too. How do we support, and that's how to get in the community. So you can throw in an event. I'm not saying that's bad, but how much better is it if we have people that are intentionally coaching hockey or coaching soccer and saying, I'm praying for these kids, I'm talking about these things, they're coming to me with their questions, and equipping people in their life. So we've talked in the past too about we don't want to overburden people's schedules with church stuff. I think we should do some more, but I think overburdening that would also be detrimental too, because then we're not actually out involved with people. So I think how do we help people see that you can serve in the community? It doesn't have to be a church ministry, but you can be on mission and be a missionary in those places. I think is huge.
On behalf of the church,
on
behalf of Jesus.
Yeah,
and SEC.
yeah.
How do you feel about people coming up and saying, "Hey, Pastor Kevin, I've got this great idea"?
Yeah.
What's your response going to be?
Well, I think, again, we want to have some collaborative space and recognizing we can't do everything. That's the other thing I hope people aren't hearing these last few weeks, like, hey, we're going to do 100 of these new things. Like, probably not. But what are some ways that we can move the ball down the field,
So it aligns with the vision of the church, and it's like, no, that actually, there is actually a need for this. That's good.
Or, go ahead and do that.
Yeah, send them on.
You have a great idea.
Great idea. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Good.
There really is only so many places within the church.
That's right.
And that doesn't mean that we can't start new ministries. I think starting new ministries, having some other spaces, I think is great. But how are people actually just equipped as Christians to go and be Christians where the Lord has them, in their neighborhood, whatever it is? Yeah.
I would just like to ask a question that happens once a year in the young people's lives when they graduate from school.
Yeah.
What about the recognition? Like, I saw it in the bulletin that went out, to pray for them.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see a face. It would encourage these young people to say, for the love that the church could give to them through prayer and through the congratulations of they've worked hard for that in the days we're living in today.
Certainly.
In the schools. What do you think about that?
I think that's great. That's something we've had grads on the stage and prayed for them. This year, we had Anya, who was baptized, so we prayed for her when she got baptized. We give them Bibles from the church, some of those types of things. So, I think that's a good thing. I think that's great. Yeah.
Just thinking a little bit about I got a little ministry in the Legion now. I'm an old soldier myself, had 5 years in Britain. But I just wondered sometimes, that comes once a year too.
Mm-hmm.
That saved, we have the freedom we do today because of what went on in the last war. I just wondered if sometimes once a year we couldn't recognize some of these vets here, just to say a prayer or read a scripture or something up front that we recognize them. Would that be a remote possibility or what?
I could always say it's a possibility, but I don't want to answer it on this spot right now. But yeah, anything's a possibility. Yeah, but we'd have to talk about that and chat about it.
Yeah, and I think these are exactly the kind of things that we would hope a lead pastor would be willing to hear. It's like, I got this idea. Can you listen to this thought that I have? I think that's good.
Yeah, and does it fit with what we're doing on a Sunday morning? I think is a great question to ask. Yeah,
it's good. Thanks.
Thinking about us as a church body, we love to worship together, we love to sing together, we love to pray together. It would be nice if there were events that we, as some of us, might want to go together as a church body too. You know, whether it's a music festival, whether it is some teaching, Kelowna or other places, or even just having a family camp for a period of time, kind of a come and go camping thing where...
Do some outings together.
Yeah. Exactly, because that's what families do, is we like to hang out with each other and have adventures.
Yeah.
And we're up for adventures, whether it's in learning or whether it's just in having fun and getting to know each other and meeting with other like-minded people, perhaps.
Yeah.
In the great wide world out there.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think there's space for outings or some opportunities to. It can't just be, like we said last week or week before, it can't just be one facet. Like, it's not just about teaching. It's not just about life groups. It's not just about having fun. We got to do all those things. Like you said, if it's something that a Christian does, we should do it together. Yeah.
Yeah, just to upgrade on that, just camping, she was saying, like getting around a fire and singing songs for Christ.
Totally.
In a campground, something like that. It's just
good things.
Once in a while.
Good things to do. Yeah, there you go.
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go.